I'm 29 and live in Denver. I work as a corporate strategist at a tech logistics firm, which means most people don't really know what I do. That's fine by me. I don't need to be seen. I just quietly move pieces behind the curtain and make decisions that change how teams work, how budgets shift, how brands launch. I like order. I like patterns. And I like staying out of the spotlight. I'm the second daughter. Camille is 31. My parents would never admit to playing favorites, and honestly, they didn't need to. It was obvious in 100 subtle ways. Camille was always the one with the personality. She was talkative, emotional, good with people. She cried during commercials. She hugged strangers. She once made a waiter cry tears of joy. I was the quiet one. I liked spreadsheets. I liked planning. I memorized multiplication tables for fun. If Camille was the heart, I was the head, and in our house, the heart always won. When Camille got a B, my parents told her it wasn't the grade that mattered, it was the effort. When I got straight A's for the third year in a row, they told me not to let it get to my head. When Camille got into a mid-tier college for public relations, they framed her acceptance letter. When I got a full scholarship to a top business school, they said I'd finally be independent. Camille floated through internships and temporary jobs, trying out different things, event planning, influencer management, a short-lived YouTube channel. I graduated, got my MBA, started consulting, and moved through the ranks. My work got results, but it didn't come with applause. That was always reserved for Camille. 2 years ago, Camille started obsessing over this company called Lysair, a luxury French skincare brand, just beginning to push into the US market. She called it her dream job before there was even a job to dream about. She followed all their social media, reposted their launches, even redesigned their Instagram grid for fun and posted it online like a fan-made portfolio. She told everyone she was manifesting a role there. Branding, PR, social strategy, something glamorous. I remember the dinner clearly. It was last October. The four of us were out, and Camille had just finished a story about a date she went on with some guy who worked in real estate. My mother laughed and said, "He told me Camille is exactly the kind of woman men want to marry. Not like you, dear, you're the kind they want to work for." I let out a small laugh, but I was staring into my wine glass. Then my father added, "She's not wrong. You're more boardroom. Camille's more home. That's just how it is." It wasn't the first time something like that had slipped out. A couple years before that, my mother told me, "You're very impressive, but men like softness." I knew what she meant, and I knew who she thought had it. It wasn't hate. It wasn't cruelty. It was disappointment in a form they never acknowledged. They thought they were being honest, helpful even. It finally clicked for me in that moment at the restaurant. There was nothing I could do to be the right kind of a woman in their eyes. I wasn't the one they imagined beaming in wedding photos, or gushing about a nursery, or charming the neighbors with a tray of lemon bars. I was the one they imagined working late and living alone. I didn't fight with them about it. I never do. That would have just proven their point. Instead, I smiled, paid my part of the bill, and excused myself early. I didn't say I was done trying to impress them, but I was. 3 months ago, something strange happened at work. A partner contact pulled me into a restructuring project for a European luxury brand looking to break into the US market. I was told very little at the start, just that it would involve strategy development, team build-outs, and advising on branding personnel hires. Everything came through a third-party agency based in Geneva. A week later, I opened a new file from the agency's portal. The client name was Lysair. I didn't react. I just kept reading. Then I checked my notes from Camille's old social posts. The timing made sense. Lysair was prepping their expansion for the upcoming spring. I remembered her talking about sending them resumes, cold emails, even joining a couple of their staff's LinkedIn discussion groups. I didn't say anything. Not to my colleagues, not to Camille, not to my parents. But something turned over in my mind. A slow, methodical awareness. I wasn't angry, not exactly. I didn't want to hurt Camille. But I also wasn't in the mood to sit back and let things play out naturally. I had influence. I had control over how we shaped this team, the types of people we were told to look for, the attributes the company wanted to prioritize. I wasn't going to do anything illegal, or even unethical, but I was going to use what I had. Strategically, no one needed to know. Not yet. A few weeks after I started working on Lysair's US hiring strategy, Camille sent me a text out of nowhere. It was a screenshot of an email from a hiring manager. She'd made it past the initial stage. They wanted to schedule a Zoom interview. She had added sparkles and hearts to the screenshot before sending it to me. I asked what role it was for. She said, "Content strategy lead." I already knew. That was one of the 5 key roles I was reviewing for Lysair internally. Every single resume passed through a shared system that landed directly on my desk for red flag vetting and compatibility analysis. The final decision didn't rest with me, but the hiring path began with my notes. Camille had no idea. Her application came in labeled with a random alphanumeric code, like all others. No names, no identifying markers. The only reason I knew it was hers was because I recognized the samples from her portfolio. She had shown me those mock-ups last summer, neon overlays, chunky fonts, get ready with me reels rebranded into ads. It was energetic, sure, but not timeless, not luxury. I went through it like I did every other application. Checked metrics, engagement strategy, long-term campaign viability. Her work leaned too far into internet trends. It was the kind of material that peaked fast and aged badly. Not wrong. Just not right for Lysair, a company trying to present itself as aspirational and European chic. I flagged the submission in the internal memo, not because I wanted to sabotage her, because it didn't fit the criteria. I used the standard internal phrases, style misaligned with brand vision, approach better suited for mass market appeal, recommend hold for future entry-level influencer outreach. No one knew it was me. Our system assigns reviewer IDs to keep the process blind. A few days later, a junior coordinator decided to move forward with a first interview anyway. They said it wouldn't hurt to screen her. Camille told the family it was her shot. She wore a white blazer and curled her hair for the Zoom call. She kept practicing her intro line. I asked her what questions she expected. She laughed and said she wasn't worried. This was what she was born to do. 2 days after the interview, internal feedback came through. The hiring manager wrote, "Very enthusiastic, strong energy, but didn't feel brand appropriate, spoke more like an influencer than a strategist, mentioned wanting to be the face of the next campaign." The final sentence was underlined. "Did not demonstrate understanding of brand hierarchy." I forwarded the memo to my lead with a comment of my own, suggest avoiding influencer-style branding portfolios for core strategy roles, recommending priority be placed on candidates with legacy brand experience and team-first presentation. The suggestion was accepted and added to the updated hiring guidelines for the entire campaign. I watched the change get implemented. Camille had no idea that her biggest strength, her personality, was exactly what knocked her out of the running. She spent the next week waiting for a callback. Every day, she sent updates in the family group chat. "Still no news yet, but I'm feeling good." Crossing fingers. Manifesting it. Our parents kept encouraging her. My mother even started looking at New York apartments online just in case. The email came through on a Wednesday evening. She opened it while sitting on the couch. I watched her expression change. My mother asked what it said. Camille read the message aloud, kind tone, corporate language. They appreciated her passion but didn't see a current alignment. They'd keep her on file. She tried to laugh, but it broke halfway. My mother stood up and hugged her immediately. My father said the people running the company probably didn't know talent if it hit them in the face. Camille didn't respond. She looked stunned. Later that night, during dinner, I asked if she'd consider applying to a mid-tier wellness brand first, to build experience. She didn't look at me, just shook her head and said, "It's Lysair or nothing. I've been dreaming about this since college." Our parents nodded. My father poured wine and made a toast to her future, bigger things ahead. My mother posted an old photo of Camille holding a skincare bottle on her private feed, calling her a true visionary in waiting. No one asked about my work. That same week, I got a message from my director. She congratulated me on helping the team avoid some serious image risks in early recruitment, said my vetting process was razor sharp. I typed back, happy to help, and moved on to the next profile in my inbox. Camille never suspected anything. To her, it was just a missed opportunity, a tough break. She went on believing it was all timing, or maybe a picky executive. She didn't know her application had landed in my hands first. She still doesn't. About a month after Camille's first rejection, Lysair launched a new campaign focused on targeting Gen Z consumers. The move surprised a lot of people on the team. The company had been careful about maintaining its identity, polished, slow luxury, French elegance, but the board had decided to expand into younger markets without cheapening the brand, and that meant hiring fresh creatives who understood digital youth culture but still fit the tone. 2 new mid-level content strategist roles were posted. Unlike the last time, these weren't high-level positions with wide creative control. They were support roles, the kind where you contribute to visual narratives, work under the lead designer, and shape the content around approved templates. Camille applied the same day the posting went live. She didn't tell me right away. I found out when I saw her resume surface again through our internal database, this time forwarded by a recruiter who had connected with her on LinkedIn. Apparently, she had messaged someone at the company, and that person passed her details along to the right team. The recruiter remembered her from the previous round and noted that she had promised but needed guidance. They flagged her for possible mentorship. I was looped back in to assist with cultural alignment scoring. My job was to evaluate whether applicants matched Lysair's evolving identity, youthful but refined, digitally savvy but not trend-obsessed. My boss reminded me of Camille's earlier rejection and said, "We flagged her before, but people grow. Be honest but constructive." I pulled up her updated file. She had made some changes. The designs were less crowded. She'd replaced the bold neons with softer palettes. She even included a minimalist carousel mock-up styled after Lysair's own past campaigns, but the tone still leaned toward attention-grabbing visuals. Her captions used phrases like vibe check and face goals. Her tagline was turning self-care into a statement. It wasn't bad, but it still wasn't Lysair. My feedback was clear. I acknowledged that she had taken earlier suggestions into account. I wrote that her revisions showed potential, but the core aesthetic still felt closer to lifestyle influencer branding than timeless product storytelling. I added that her content was energetic but risked overpowering the brand instead of supporting it. I was also asked to give a cultural fit score that included an analysis of how public-facing the applicant had been in connection to the brand. I noted that Camille had tagged Lysair in multiple personal posts across 2 years, some of which included her holding their products and offering her own taglines beneath them. I flagged this as a concern. The company had recently reinforced policies about maintaining brand neutrality among employees, especially those who already had a visible online presence. My final note said she'd likely thrive in a boutique agency or fast-paced influencer-backed startup, but Lysair required quiet branding discipline. They weren't looking for someone to build a personal image off their name. The leadership team reviewed the feedback and archived her application. She never received a call back. I didn't bring it up. Neither did she. A week passed. Then 2. Camille kept checking her inbox. She updated her LinkedIn headline. She posted a vague story captioned, "Trust the process." Finally, she messaged the recruiter who had shown interest earlier. The reply was short, "We're moving in a different direction, but thank you for your enthusiasm." That night, Camille broke down again. She stayed in her room with the lights off. My mother called me privately and said, "You're the one who understands how these things work. Can you talk to her?" We sat in the kitchen. She asked if I could look over her portfolio sometime, said she thought she had fixed everything. She didn't understand why it still wasn't enough. I told her maybe it wasn't about being enough. Maybe it was just a matter of fit. She didn't answer. She just nodded. Later that week, I heard her talking to one of her friends over the phone. She said she might take a break from branding, maybe switch to something else. She used the word burnt out. My parents tiptoed around the topic. My mother made her favorite soup 2 nights in a row. My father offered to introduce her to a contact who worked at a luxury home goods company. Camille waved it off. At work, I finalized the hiring strategy document for the Gen Z expansion phase. My input was highlighted across 4 sections. My director said the board was pleased with the balance we'd struck between innovation and brand protection. Camille never found out who had placed the final block on her path. Twice. 2 weeks after Camille's second rejection from Lasair, the company announced a private brand experience gala in Los Angeles. It was part networking event, part launch celebration, and strictly invite only. Attendees included top-tier influencers, media consultants, branding executives, and a few internal strategists. The dress code was minimalist and elegant, white, champagne, and soft neutral tones. No bold colors. No loud looks. Subtle luxury only. Camille found out through a beauty podcast that mentioned the gala casually during a segment. She immediately latched onto the idea that this was her way in. She kept saying that FaceTime was all she needed, that if she could just talk to the right person, it would finally happen. She believed Lasair hadn't truly seen her yet. Our parents jumped on board. My father said this is exactly how people are discovered, one moment, one impression. My mother booked her a dress fitting before the end of the day. Camille chose a red gown with layered tulle and dramatic sleeves, the kind of dress that turns heads at a cocktail party. My mother called it powerful. I knew it was off theme, but I didn't say anything. What Camille didn't know was that I had already been invited to attend the gala. I was listed as a guest consultant on the US branding expansion team, and I had been involved in the pre-event planning for weeks. I wasn't in charge, but I had limited influence, mostly in recommending seating groupings or flagging profiles for review before the final list was approved by the event's coordinator. Camille tried pulling strings. She messaged someone she once collaborated with on a skincare brand giveaway, someone who had been tagged in a Lasair repost, and asked for a +1 spot. That email came through the internal event team, which I had visibility on. I passed along a polite note to the events team, suggesting they consider minimizing overlap from the influencer lifestyle space to preserve the gala's brand tone, though final approval came from the PR head. Her request was declined. I had access to the seating chart. My role didn't include final authority, but I could recommend groupings based on brand synergy. I placed Camille at a table with a few beauty micro-influencers who had under 20,000 followers and weren't aligned with Lasair's core image. I knew none of the major decision-makers would visit that side of the room for more than a passing greeting. I flew out to Los Angeles the morning of the gala. At the venue, I was given a press badge and placed at the consultant table near the head of the content development team. One of the European directors waved when she saw me. We had spoken on video calls, but this was the first in-person meeting. She introduced me to 2 of the board advisors before the doors even opened to the main floor. When Camille walked in, I saw her almost immediately. She had her hair done in waves and wore the red dress with confidence. Her smile froze slightly when she realized almost no one else was wearing bold colors. Everyone around her blended into the soft aesthetic of the space. Cream suits, ivory gowns, pale pastels. Her dress stood out, not in a good way. She scanned the room, clearly looking for familiar faces. I watched from across the venue as she approached a Lasair creative lead near the drink station, only for him to be pulled into a media interview mid-conversation. She hovered for a few minutes, then moved toward the snack tables, pretending to browse Horse D. O'Evers while checking her phone. 2 influencers she followed on social media passed by. One nodded at her, but when Camille tried to start a conversation, they quickly turned towards someone else, mid-laugh, and walked away. She paced between seating areas, not sure where to settle. During the second hour, a panel discussion began. I had been invited to co-moderate a roundtable on brand evolution and voice consistency across global markets. As the event host introduced the speakers, Camille's expression shifted. When they said my name and title, she blinked like she hadn't heard it right. Then she saw me walk to the podium. She didn't clap. She just stared. After the panel, I returned to my seat. Camille tried again to insert herself into a conversation, this time with a Lasair public relations manager. I overheard pieces of it while waiting near the catering area. Camille offered to create branded reel concepts in exchange for feedback. The rep nodded politely and handed her a card, the kind they give out by the dozen at events like this. Nothing exclusive, nothing promised. Before leaving the venue, I spoke with the media coordinator managing event coverage. I suggested, as part of a broader content outline discussion, that media coverage highlight internal creatives and key partners to maintain brand clarity. We want to maintain mystery, I said. Less crowd shots. More focus on brand representatives and featured talent. It was approved within the hour. Camille's name didn't appear in any of the post-event press. No tags, no captions, no mentions. For everyone else, it was a glamorous night. For her, it was another door that looked open, until she realized it had always been closed. About a month after the gala, Camille posted on her social media that she had landed her first real skincare collaboration. The brand was called Vital Company, a small indie company trying to make its way into department stores. She announced the partnership with a carousel post, soft lighting, gold-accented bottles, and a caption about clean beauty meets modern confidence. It was unpaid, but she labeled it as exposure-rich and mentioned she was playing the long game, hoping Lasair might notice her again through adjacent networks. Our parents acted like she had just signed with a Fortune 500 company. My father printed out one of her Instagram photos and pinned it to the fridge, though lately even he seemed unsure whether it was encouragement or distraction. My mother called the collaboration proof the industry was finally waking up. Camille had a vision board out by that evening and said she was going to shoot a full campaign reel in 3 parts. Coincidentally, Vital Company was already on my radar at work. Lasair had quietly flagged them as a possible acquisition candidate the previous quarter. My team was currently gathering research on their voice, consumer engagement, and brand structure. One of my tasks was to compile notes on their influencer strategy. I pulled their current outreach list and found Camille under the unpaid trial tier. Her name was logged with 3 scheduled posts and a tentative live stream. I didn't remove her from the list. I flagged her profile under brand fit observation. I noted that her content leaned heavily on current trends and often used humor or exaggeration, which clashed with Vital Company's stated pivot toward clean, elegant, and instructional content. I referenced her previous work applying product during a dance routine on TikTok and categorized it as tone mismatch. It wasn't personal, it was analysis. I shared a performance analysis memo with the acquisition team, pointing out risks in partnering with brands relying too heavily on uncontracted influencer campaigns, especially those with visual tone inconsistencies. I included a recommendation that future influencer partnerships should be reviewed through a brand risk lens, especially when aiming to align with luxury standards. The memo triggered a roundtable. Lasser's branding leads agreed to slow down their due diligence with Vital Company. They requested additional audits on the company's influencer policies and paused all exploratory meetings for the next cycle. The tone shifted from interested to tentative. By the end of that week, Vital Company's founder was notified that Lasser had frozen the talks. Internal emails on their end showed concern over inconsistent branding and low-tier influencer output. I wasn't copied directly, but I saw the downstream actions. Their chief marketing officer issued a pause on all active trials while they reassessed positioning. Camille received an email 3 days later. It was short, apologetic, and vague. They were halting collaborations due to internal restructuring and brand recalibration. She had just ordered new lighting equipment for her content shoot. I saw the unopened box on her bedroom floor the next time I visited our parents. She didn't bring up the cancellation once during dinner that weekend. She just picked at her food while my father talked about packaging ideas she should pitch next. Our mother pulled her aside afterward to give her a pep talk in the hallway. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I caught a part of it, something about staying pretty and persistent, and how these things always turn around for girls who don't give up. I stayed in the kitchen wiping down the counters. That night, after the house went quiet, I reopened a folder I had archived earlier that year. It contained public clips that had been flagged during brand screening exercises. I found one from Camille's now deleted TikTok account, her dancing to a trending song while slathering on moisturizer with too much product and no cleanser. It had gone mildly viral for the wrong reasons before she pulled it. I re-uploaded it to an internal marketing risk archive under miscellaneous, non-affiliate example. Vital Company was acquired 6 weeks later, not by Lasser, but by a competing mid-range brand that focused on packaging reform and product bundling. During the rebrand, they cut every influencer who wasn't under a paid contract. Camille's name never came up in their content refresh. She didn't say much after that. She noticed her engagement slowing. Her usual photographer stopped replying to her messages. One of her affiliate links was removed from a brand's site. She told our parents the market had gotten too crowded and that she was thinking of switching to wellness blogging. She started testing smoothie recipes and talking about journaling prompts on her stories. I didn't say a word, but by then I had already submitted notes on 3 of the wellness brands she followed, each flagged for brand dilution risk in our legacy acquisition model. Their partnerships would be watched more closely now, and so would anyone trying to ride them into relevance. Camille called our parents to tell them she got another shot, an interview with a boutique agency called Red Crate. She had heard they were working with one of Lasser's wellness sub-brands for a holiday launch and said this could be her last real chance to break through. Our father offered to help her prep for the call. Our mother started writing down outfit notes in case the interview moved in person. They were all in again, like nothing else had happened. I already knew Red Crate. I'd been on 2 alignment calls with their lead strategist during the planning phase for the wellness campaign. They weren't a major player in Lasser's network, just contracted for a seasonal project. But they had potential, and Lasser was watching them carefully, especially their choices in influencer and creative partnerships. Camille had reached out to someone named Naomi through LinkedIn. Naomi was a junior strategist who had recently been moved off her main campaign after mishandling a product rollout caption that offended a small but vocal user base. It hadn't gone public, but internally she was placed on lighter assignments and wasn't trusted with lead selection. Naomi was the wrong person to be speaking to, especially for someone trying to position herself for strategic branding work. During a routine check-in with Red Crate's team, I asked in passing about their interview roster, curious about who Naomi was meeting with that week. Their lead strategist said, "Naomi, should I have someone else take it?" I told him it was fine. I added, lightly, that if she was being considered, they might want to pay attention to how she balanced personal narrative with brand sensitivity. That was all it took. Camille had the call 2 days later. She told her parents it went well, though she wasn't sure what to make of Naomi. She said Naomi seemed nice but didn't say much and didn't explain the project clearly. Camille said she'd follow up with a pitch deck over the weekend. Naomi submitted internal feedback that same afternoon. She wrote that Camille was enthusiastic but self-focused and that most of the conversation centered around her personal goals, not brand building. Naomi flagged her as someone with a lot of self-branding energy who might struggle to stay within the tone boundaries of a subtle wellness campaign. The comment wasn't particularly harsh, but it landed at the wrong moment. Red Crate leadership had just met with Lasser that week. During the meeting, Lasser's team reminded them to steer clear of influencers and creatives who appeared to treat collaborations like personal stage time. They emphasized the importance of brand-first storytelling. Naomi's notes matched that warning too perfectly. Camille sent her pitch deck on Monday. It was a 14-slide presentation, mostly cream and beige tones. Slide 3 featured a campaign concept titled Skin First, Fame Second. Her face was on every mock slide, holding bottles, sitting on counters, lounging with a silk robe and a clay mask. Her name was watermarked on the layout. It looked more like a personal lookbook than a campaign pitch. The file got circulated internally at Red Crate for review. One of the assistants screenshot slide 3 and sent it to the group chat with a single caption, "Nope, the deck was never replied to. No thank you." No rejection email. They ghosted her entirely. Camille tried to wait it out. She refreshed her inbox hourly for a week. Then she broke. I overheard my father on the phone telling her to stay calm, that it was just one call. Camille started crying. She said she didn't understand what she was doing wrong, that she followed every step, fixed her tone, dressed the part, pitched the visuals. She couldn't figure out where she kept missing. The next day, my mother tried to console her again. She said maybe she should consider a different approach, that sometimes quiet success is still success. Camille snapped and ended the call. After that, small things started changing. She removed the pitch deck link from her website. Her Instagram stories went quiet for several days. She stopped checking her DMs out loud in the living room. At family dinner, she only gave one-word answers. She didn't ask our father to take new headshots like she usually did. Her smile and photos shrank by just a fraction, but enough for our mother to notice. I took one last step. I removed Camille from my LinkedIn connections. Then I reset all my visibility settings to private. No endorsements, no mutual links, no overlaps. My role with Lasser was never public, and now it never would be. Camille could keep chasing shadows, but she would never trace them back to me. 2 months after the Red Crate fallout, Camille made a quiet comeback. She told our mother over brunch that she was done chasing flashy gigs. She said she wanted to focus on something slower, more grounded. That same evening, she posted a muted reel with piano music in the background and a caption that read, "Grace over grind begins today." It was a full rebrand. She changed her blog layout to a beige and eucalyptus green palette, removed her older pages, and swapped her bold Instagram captions with quotes from poets and wellness writers. Her profile bio now said, "Soft steps, strong roots, living slowly with purpose." The neon filters were gone. Her new photos were soft lit, candle heavy, and usually featured books, tea, or her dog napping on linen sheets. Our mother loved it. She sent Camille a gift card for a sustainable clothing brand and said it was exactly the kind of elegance this family needed. She printed out Camille's new blog header and pinned it to the fridge in place of the old collab flyer. My father joked that this was finally something he could show his friends without squinting, but I knew what she was doing. She had studied Lasser's branding. The entire Grace over grind concept was a mirror of Lasser's tone, subtle elegance, introspection, whisper-level branding. It was clear she wasn't just trying to be more authentic. She was realigning for another attempt. And I already knew where she was going next. She joined a local wellness panel at a co-working space, where she spoke for 10 minutes about the pressure to build personal brands in an oversaturated world. She talked about burnout and boundaries. Near the end, she said something about having a sister who never quite believed in what I do and how not everyone claps when you grow. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. The following week, I reached out to a boutique agency called Sable & Rhodes. They were on a shortlist for Lasser's 2025 Silent Excellence campaign, a global refresh project that aimed to highlight subtle, emerging lifestyle voices. The agency had a reputation for quiet storytelling and long-form collaborations. I had a contact there from a previous project and sent a message referencing a few new platforms they should be aware of. Emerging blogs trying to mimic the minimalist brand space too quickly. I included a link to Grace over grind. I didn't editorialize. I just pasted side-by-side screenshots of Camille's old TikToks with neon overlays and bold makeup routines next to her current herbal tea flat lays and soft-spoken captions. One file, labeled before, time-stamped from just 10 months earlier. One labeled now. Sable & Rhodes held an internal meeting the next day. My contact forwarded me the summary, saying they had discussed Grace over grind under their case studies of personal brands with identity inconsistency. They added her name to a private list labeled brand risk, unverified tone shift. It wasn't a hard blacklist, but it flagged her for any future consideration as a pass with caution. A week later, Camille sent in a cold pitch to their upcoming Voices program. She framed herself as a slow living advocate and mentioned, vaguely, that my sister and I are both in the brand space now, but I'm the one speaking to hearts. She attached a PDF of content themes and offered to shoot a pilot campaign for free if selected. They replied 2 days later, "Thank you for your submission. We are moving in a different direction." Camille didn't say a word about it, but she stopped posting for 3 days after the reply came through. Then she uploaded a single photo of her dog curled up on a throw blanket. The caption said nothing. At the next family dinner, Camille sat quietly. She picked at her food and barely touched the wine. My father asked me how work was going and if the European office was flying me out again. My mother complimented the watch I was wearing and asked if I had picked it up during my last trip. Camille didn't react. She just stirred her pasta and nodded whenever someone spoke. As we were leaving, Camille followed me to the driveway. She didn't argue. She didn't accuse. She just looked at me for a second before saying, "I guess some doors just don't open, no matter how long you knock." I told her maybe it just wasn't her lane yet. She nodded and went back inside. After that, her posts changed. Not all at once, just slowly. She stopped tagging brands. She didn't post pitch captions anymore. Her photos turned more into casual moments. Her dog, her garden, a shelf she repainted, a loaf of banana bread that flopped in the oven. No strategy, no hook, just life. Camille never found out. She still doesn't know for sure what happened. She believes she tried everything, but sometimes she wonders if someone close just didn't believe in her, that timing was off, that the market shifted, that maybe she wasn't meant for the stage. But the truth is, there was no stage. I folded it up, moved the lights, and shut the entrance before she even arrived. Not out of hate, not out of revenge, just alignment. I didn't destroy her dream. I rerouted it, and she walked the long way around, never realizing I had drawn the map.